seems that Christ consciousness is available to humanity at all times of the year, but there's something about this season that possibly might have even more information for us. So we wanted to see what Rebecca and the masters had to say.
Good morning, Valerie. It's great to be here with you again. And yeah, we're just a few days away from Christmas, so there's a lot of focus at this time on who we are as beings and what our calling is. What brings us together as humanity at this time is often holiday seasons and gatherings with family. And interesting that it's also a super challenging time for many of us. For many people, it's a time of grief. It's a time of difficulties with family dynamics and identities and roles. So it's so interesting to me personally that not only for many, religious institutions and spiritual practices, it's a real peak of and a focal point for our spirituality, but also it's one of the most challenging times too. So I feel that could be a really interesting conversation with the masters today.
Me too.
So shall we just dive in, see what we have to say?
Yeah, let's dive in and see what they have for us.
Beautiful. Greetings to you, blessed ones, we are with you. And indeed, it is a time of heightened focus, but heightened focus is always about heightened availability for a heightened experience. And while humans like to use the word heightened to denote something that is better than, or higher than, or perhaps an increased frequency, let us say that in our view, it's about an increased intensity. So any kind of focal point, whether it be calendrical or timing point for humans to bring all of their attention together in gatherings or rituals such as this, it's always about the gathering of human consciousness for an intensified experience of self. Now, when we use the word self, we can speak about the personalized self, which is why at this time of year for humans, it's always about what is my identity in this collective? How do I fit into my family? Who am I in this? How many friends do I have? Am I giving or receiving? So incredibly personalized experience of self is brought into question. It's also the time of year where humans are often in situations where they need to adopt or adapt to identities that no longer suit them anymore. And hence, it becomes very personal and very challenging. And it's also a time where one can reflect upon how far they've come throughout the year and so on. Likewise, collectively, it brings a focal point of intensity to the experience of self. What is humanity? How has the year progressed? How is it that humanity is increasing its conscious awareness, or is there an apparent decrease in activity that is heart-centered and community-driven? But of course, the ultimate experience of self is that which is the God energy, the source Christ consciousness within. So the intensity of all of these experiences of the concept of self is what this time of year is all about. And of course, humans often, particularly within certain religious practices and certain spiritual practices, will say that it is a time of giving, and it's a time of giving thanks. And in our view, the giving thanks is far more potent than the act of giving anything materially or anything that is about an exchange. Because to give thanks is not a giving that is done within the paradigm of exchange. When one gives thanks, or when one gives gratitude, it is the closing of a loop. It is the completion of a cycle. It is an act of grace. And therefore, to give thanks or to acknowledge something with gratitude is rounding out a creation. It is not only saying, thank you, we are complete, what is now available to humanity. It is also saying thank you to the self for your own participation. Thank you to the collective humanity for embodying this experience and all of those who had their part to play in it, whether perceived positive or negative, it is irrelevant. And also giving thanks to the self, the God, source, energy, Christ consciousness within. So the trinity of giving thanks in these three aspects of self is what allows one to come back into their own sense of union with the all that is. So many may say that this is a time to remember those who have suffered or those that have sacrificed themselves, particularly the one who has been known as the Jesus. But this unique demonstration, we would call it a unique demonstration of the potency of the human capacity to transcend suffering, is truly the greatest gift of all. Because it's never about going into suffering. It's never about paying a debt. It's never about pain is required in order for transcendence to occur. It is about the great acknowledging and the giving thanks, the gratitude for the incredible intensity of a dualistic experience, whereby suffering and pain and love sit side by side. Because in all things in your world, in your third dimensional reality, there is duality. And the greatest mastery of any human, such as the Jesus, is to demonstrate that unconditional love can sit alongside pain and suffering in the most graceful way, without attempting to remove one or the other. The one known as the Jesus was an incredible demonstration of not choosing one over the other, but being able to embody both with grace. And those two pillars then create a doorway to the all. Indeed, the inner alchemy of being able to have suffering and unconditional love within oneself, without exchanging one for the other, without one destroying the other, is the transmutation that enables everlasting life. So what a wonderful experience for focus to give thanks and gratitude for this incredible human capacity.
Wow, that was really beautiful and incredibly potent. So as a person steps more into that space where the suffering and the love coexist, is it an energy of gratitude that they get to have that experience, and they even just get to have an experience of this life in the 3D? Is it more of an energy of, I'm in agreement that there is both here, and looking at it from a place of neutrality?
Well, you cannot deny nor escape the dualistic experience of your third dimensional reality. Even those who have become illuminated still acknowledge that there is suffering and grief, and yet sit in their unconditional love. They have the mastery to embody both. And this indeed is the union that brings about the glorified experience of Christ consciousness as the self. That is the transmutation. That is the everlasting life. That is the return to the kingdom of heaven. Never one destroying the other, but both sitting alongside in acknowledgement and in gratitude that they exist. And so here at this time of year, you call it time, it is, of course, about having the grace and the mastery and the conscious awareness to be able to sit in all three aspects of self, with intensified suffering and pain and unconditional love. And to bring some humor to the conversation, there is nothing quite like a reunion family Christmas, for example, to bring about some evoking of pain and suffering, perhaps wounds from childhood or the past, or redundant identities and so on, and unconditional love for family. So it's an interesting balance. And so, of course, the invitation at this time for humanity is about seek ye not to destroy any aspect of oneself, but rather seek ye to bring both into harmonic union. And then one enters the kingdom of God.
That was really beautiful. Thank you. That feels very complete to me, unless there's anything else you'd like to add.
Well, also let us not forget about the great star, because the star, of course, astrologically and astronomically, is very prophetic for new beginnings, newness, hope, inspiration, destiny. Why? Because when two polarities come together and are acknowledged, this is the human experience. You cannot eradicate suffering. You cannot eradicate unconditional love, but you can learn to see the value of them both to bring about a harmonic convergence. The star then is the ignition of now what new. And so to give thanks, to give gratitude, it rounds things into completion, and something new is birthed in that moment. So it is indeed a time for birthing new.
Yeah, that feels exactly right. And that's a beautiful message for this season as we move into it more deeply.
For humanity to have hope for something new.
Indeed. Thank you.
Very well, Blessed One. If suffering and love can sit side by side, surely humans can stand side by side.
Yes, indeed.
Peace be with you.
And with you. Thank you.